killed a lot of the racecraft is because of that reason. And also that's why I think back in the day you saw a lot more physical altercations after the races. Is because they're like, damn man, I gotta go home and
Yeah.
I gotta go to the shop and fix this thing.
Dude, you're doing 2 videos a week. That's madness.
We do, kind of depends how it falls. Like during season, it's easy to do two. Off season, not so much.
Right. And are you the only guy editing?
Yeah, yeah, I do everything from the ideas to how it's shot to um, editing, posting, thumbnails, everything. Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Jeez. What like did you grow up watching YouTube like or vlogs or anything like that? Like it's pretty dialed in. Like
Yeah, I mean, so my passion for filming started when I was like 13, 14 years old. My older brother was racing sprint cars. And so I'd go to the track and I wanted to do something to feel productive. He already had a crew chief, he had a car chief. And so I just wanted to feel productive. So I would film his races so he had a chance to go back and watch them. And so that's what like got me into it. And I just bought like a $200 camera, started filming. And then there's a company called Loud Pedal,
mm,
and Loud Pedal does like sprint car videos and stuff like that. Not so much anymore, but back then they did. And I started watching their videos, and they like put music on it and all kinds of shit. And I was like, dude, that is awesome. Like I got to do it. So I started to put music and started to learn how to edit and started going further and further. And here we are now. Probably 10 years of filming and editing, 11 years. So, yeah, I mean, and then from there, the vlogging stuff is far easier because it's so raw, it's so organic. You got a camera, you're holding it, you flip it, you turn it. Your shots aren't perfect, but there's a lot more that goes into it than a lot of people might think.
for sure. For sure. I mean the editing has to be massive just with the amount that you're filming, no?
I would say in the beginning, yes. In the beginning, we had so much footage. I'd stop filming in a day and have 3, 4 hour, 5 hours of footage, and you're cutting it down to 10 minutes because the attention span of, now is so much shorter than what it used to be. I think TikTok and Reels and, the Facebook shorts or YouTube shorts and the Facebook stories, like I think that really changed the game for a lot of people and their attention span, like especially TikTok and Reels. You don't like something, you scroll. So you got to keep it interesting because people click off super fast. So, when you have 5 hours of footage, it took forever just cutting footage. And now as you got better at it, as we figured out more of what to do, I think it helped us a ton because now we end up at hour 30, hour 20 amount of footage. And that's a lot easier and a lot less for us to cut up or for me to cut up. And it takes less time. So, yeah, no, I enjoy it. At times I enjoyed it in the beginning and, now it's just a job.
Right, right. That's such a good point. I want to get back to that. Anything just becomes a job. So I was cruising through, I guess, well, Hailie's YouTube channel, watching some videos before this. You're in wedding planning mode now, right?
Yeah, well, she's in wedding
Yeah.
planning mode. I told her, I said, look, once the proposal is done, my job's done. Now I say, yeah, we're in wedding planning mode, I guess you could say. It's kind of tough to do while you're trying to race, and the race season never stops. If you're a racer, it just never stops. It keeps going, and then during the off season, it's meeting and this and that and this, getting ready for the new season. So, yeah, we trying to plan it like November next year, maybe December off season. That way, her brother's off season, she's off, and all of our friends are all involved in racing, so everyone's got off time during that time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I had to plan my wedding, and my first kid around not interfering with the race season. So, so yeah, yeah, I get it. Um, I guess for the YouTube stuff like that must take up so much time. What do and it sounds like you have a bunch of other job titles too. What do you tell people when someone asks, "What do you do for a living?"
Uh, It depends if I want to keep it short.
Hmm.
If I want to keep it short, I just tell them I'm a professional race wife. If if I want to get elaborate and people are like, no, for real, like, what do you do? And so, yeah, I mean, we have the YouTube that we do full time. And then from there, I race myself, but I do all the merch designs, the printing for the merchandise. My younger brother and another one of our employees does the fulfillment, so that takes a lot off. And they do a lot. They do a majority of the printing, but for in the beginning, I was printing before we had employees that were able to do it for us. So and as we're getting bigger and bigger, you're able to kind of outsource certain things. Like you find a good designer here and there, and you have them do a couple shirts, and so that helps. But for the beginning, probably 2 years, it was just me and doing everything from the fulfillment to the designing, placing the orders, and doing all that. So yeah, I wear multiple hats, but I guess it's what makes everything go around.
Are you doing like again watching those videos this morning? You guys are doing in-show ads. Are you trying to hustle sponsorship for the YouTube stuff, or does Hailie have like a full, you know, um, like a full-time person doing everything in-house?
Yeah, no. So we actually got hooked up with a gentleman named Abe, and we ended up branching to him when he worked at YouTube. And it was like, hey, for whatever reason, our views are going down. Can you look into our content, figure out like why that's happening? Like our average view duration's up, our click through rate is up, but our views are down.
Hmm.
So if you give us some pointers. And so I got hooked up with him through that. And then he ended up going off and making a management side to his. He made his own management and then for YouTube. So we got hooked up with him. And Hailie obviously has her manager for racing, but we have our YouTube manager as well that sells those deals. That when you click on a video and it says, "Hey, this video is sponsored by blank," and we do a simple ad read or the DraftKings on Instagram or anything like that. So we do have a manager that handles that side and keeps it super easy for us. But for the most part, I mainly deal with him as far as he comes to me, says, "Hey, can you do this?" And then you just got to make sure it doesn't clash with your partners on the racing side. And then if all the boxes check and everything looks good, then you're able to move on from there and go about it. And then you got to submit them, and they come back and they give you approval or ask for changes, and then they go in the next video.
Right on, right on. So let's jump into your racing stuff. And like with all my racers, I always want to start and like figure out what their childhood was like. You grew up in Florida, right? And so I
Yeah.
guess paint me a picture, what it was like growing up, what your parents or your dad did for a living, kind of those early years.
Yeah, so I grew up in motocross. I raced dirt bikes when I was younger. Not for long. A buddy of ours ended up getting paralyzed at a private test session, and my dad called it quits right there. I was like 7. So from there, we ended up going on and starting in go karts, and then racing go karts, and off to like the dirt world, the dirt micro sprints and sprint cars. My older brothers raced sprint cars, and then we moved up here in North Carolina. And that was only for the sole reason of one day my older brother's car chief was like, "Hey, you should apply to this Drive for Diversity for Colin." I'm like, well, "What do I got to do?" So I looked it up. You had to make a video, and I was like, "Well, I got that down." And so I made a really cool video, and we uploaded it and filled out the application. He got accepted and was running for Rev Racing. I think if I'm wrong, I think you were in the next program with him,
Yeah,
maybe or
yeah,
no.
100%, man. He's a great guy. We hit it off.
So yeah, so he was a part of that, and then we moved up here, and that's what got me into it. My, just honestly, just a typical middle class family that we could sprint car race and do that, but it was on a budget, and if Colin was racing, there was no way that I could do it. So when he moved on to the Rev program and had the funding from the diversity program, it opened up doors for me to be able to start racing. And that's what allowed, I mean, obviously I was racing, but I wasn't like doing it as he was. And that allowed me to do that. And we actually, since we were up here in North Carolina, we took his sprint car and sold it and got a late model. And the late model was way cheaper than the sprint car was. So we were able to take the leftover money from what we sold, and we bought the late model and just raced on that for like a year. And then I went into the Rev program. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it started and how it went. And
Yeah.
then from there, just able to run 4 years with them.
Yeah, I'm curious. For people who don't know, explain what the Drive for is it for Diversity, the Drive for Diversity
Yep.
program, like shootout is, like how that all works, and then if you whatever set fast lap, I assume, like what happens.
Yeah, so NASCAR has a diversity side to the entire corporation. And so they have the Drive for Diversity with Rev Racing. And you submit an application, and they narrow it down to 10, 14, 16, 17 sometimes. So, and then you go to the combine, what they call it, and they test you physical. They test your media skills, and then they test you on track. And um, they assess you on all three, and then they pick their team for the year. And it's a fully funded program, which is the only reason that I was able to race K&N, which is now the Arca East, for all those years. But it's a really cool program for people that, all kinds of different and all different minorities and females, and for them to get a shot in racing. And for me, it was the only way that I was able to kind of live out that childhood dream of traveling and racing and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's gotta be like the most legit shootout I think there is, at least in North America.
I
Where
would I
yeah,
would 100% agree.
yeah, like
Hmm.
when you're a young kid and you whether you're fast or not, but you think you're fast and you start looking for these options like, okay, how do I go and get a ride somewhere? And in my eyes, that's like, wow, you perform here, you go race K&N and everyone's watching those races.
Yeah, and then for sure, and I think there's a lot of people foresee in the racing world these tryouts, or oh, this kid got picked up. Like, we've all been in sport, we obviously know the way this world of racing works. And so yeah, to your point, I do agree that it is probably the most legit operation and combine and tryout that you can physically do. Because if you do perform, in essence, my brother, he was just an average Florida sprint car kid, and then all of a sudden he's racing K&N. And obviously that helped me because they got to know me.
Hmm.
And then, but I applied the first year and didn't even make it to the combine. And then I applied the second year, and I went to the combine, and I want to say second fastest, or I'm not exactly sure, but I was within the top one, two, or three, and the other two, whether they were in front of me or whatever it was I think it was Jay Beasley and my brother. So we were. I mean, it was kind of right there in the pudding. Like, you go out there, you perform, and you get an opportunity. So, yeah, super blessed for that program, and to be honest, it's made me who I am today. With put me in places I never thought I'd get to do.
For sure. For sure. What does it cost, maybe then or even now, like to run a season of K&N or Arca?
Then it was like 800,000. Now I want to say you're in the seven figures, 1.1, 1.2 maybe, to run for like a good team. Obviously, you can go run, something that you damn near need a Technic shot to get into for pennies on the dime. But to go run for a legit operation, now you're spending a lot of money nowadays.
Yeah. My one K&N start was something like that, just to try and get laps around Watkins Glen. It was fucked.
Yeah, my first time to Watkins Glen, I didn't know, because like I said, I came from dirt racing. I had no idea about, you had to like pump the brakes in between, like after you run over the rumble strip, and it would beat the pads out. I didn't know that you had to pump the brakes. And so I spent half the practice session bleeding brakes in the pits. The brakes aren't working. The brakes aren't working. Finally, Jefferson Hodges, who's now, I want to say he's a competition director at Penske, but he was my competition director at Rev. He came on the radio and said, "Hey, are you pumping the brakes between corners, like getting the pads back to the pad or back to the rotor?" And I said, "Oh, no one told me that. I had no idea." So I spent half the practice at Watkins Glen just sitting in the pits on jack stands.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, the rumble strips through the bus stop, I guess everywhere. So aggressive there.
Yeah. I never was experienced that, and then later on we ended up getting like the springs where it'll actually like spring the pads back, so you ain't got to do it as bad. But yeah, I'd go hit the rumble strips through one or off of one, and then in the K&N car, it was like fresh repave of Watkins Glen back then. Obviously, it's got wear on it now, but you were wide open from one all the way to the bus stop. So I came off, hit the rumble strip, went through two up the S's, and got down to the bus stop and went to the brakes, and it was just to the floor, and I just went straight.
So what? Like you guys moved up, like your brother first, and then you obviously moved up to Charlotte because what were the requirements for, like, I guess full time working in the shop at the Rev deal once you're accepted?
Yeah, so they have a gym and a physical coach inside the gym, Coach Horton, and so you're required, at least back then. I don't know what it is now, but you're required to be in the shop 7:30 to 4:30 or 7:30 to 4. And so we would all get there at 7:30, go in the gym, work out for 2 hours, hour and a half, whatever it was with Coach, and whatever he wanted you to do, and then you go out in the shop and you work. For myself, I was going there and doing that, and then I ran the graphic department. So I mean, it was only me, and they had bought a printer, a vinyl printer, and had no idea what they were doing with it. And they were like, "Hey, you know how to run this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've spent years on these machines." So
Right.
I designed all the cars and printed them and installed all four K&N cars and two late models every week. So
Whoo.
I would do that, and then that kind of took away, I felt like, in the beginning, from my like progress of being able to understand what the hell a coil bind was, and what's sitting on the right front men and sitting on the left front, and when you got reverse chuck arm split or whatever it was, I didn't even know what that meant, and I think that took away from it in the beginning. And so I had a conversation, and we figured out a way that I could kind of at lunchtime, go to lunch, come back, and then I was in the shop. So, it's kind of by my asking of like, "Hey, can we figure out a way that I can do this?" And then obviously some days you end up working super late, but it was worth it to be able to like go in the shop and actually understand the dynamics of what the car did.
Yeah, I think that's probably less and less now. Kids are getting time, working full time in the shop. Back in the day, that was your only way to go racing. But now you show up, you write a check, and you can fly in and out of every race.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's why you see so much, the racecraft has gone so far downhill. It is because of stuff like that. And then I think that's why you see such a difference in when a cup driver comes down to the truck series or anything. Those guys grew up in here when you did go to the shop every day and you did work on your own stuff. And so when they come down, they're able to completely dissect, their race car. Hey, it's doing this. They're not just, hey guys, the car's tight. When I'm center corner, it's tight. Well, what do you want? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million adjustments I can make for that. And so I think that side has gone down more and more. And then also it's killed the racecraft because kids don't work on their own shit anymore. So they have no idea, what it takes when they go decide to knock a right front fender off, or, you know, drive someone so just unbelievably ridiculous and beating the things to death. They don't care. They just go home and go do their sim time, and all right guys, show up, truck's ready again. And I think it's killed it, and killed a lot of the racecraft is because of that reason. And also that's why I think back in the day you saw a lot more physical altercations after the races is because they're like, damn, man, I got to go home and like, I got to go to the shop and fix this thing. You just knock the front clip off of it. You knock the rear clip off of it. And, or that was my best right front spring I owned. And nowadays they're like, no, all right, guys, thanks for the work. See you next week. And it honestly, it's killed it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's probably reached the pinnacle in the truck series. Like I remember, I think it was 2016. I raced the Mostport race, and coming out of turn one on like one of the restarts, I watched some guy just get on the bumper of a guy and hook him straight into the inside wall in a place where I watched a guy die in Trans Am when I was a kid, like in the exact same way that guy just got wrecked because he didn't lift and didn't give a shit. And I got on the radio. I'm like, these guys are animals out here.
Yeah, some of the racing you watch, it's like I'm glad. I wish I could get the opportunity, but a part of me would be suspended after race 2. Like there's just no way. And it's also there's no repercussion to wrecking somebody anymore. Because if I tear my truck up wrecking you, I ain't got to fix it. It comes to a racetrack again. It doesn't cost me any more money because no one's paying crash damages. I mean, not that I know of. I mean, most of the time it's just what's it cost for a race? Here, pay it, and that's it. So I think that side of it has really hurt the sport. And then also you can't fight after because when you do fight, you get fined.
Yep.
They'll use it in every commercial because it's great for the fans, but you'll get fined because of it. And you can't show up to the racetrack again until you pay that fine. So if I go out and junk you, what are you going to do about it? Come crash me back the next race? No, because it's going to hurt you in points and it's going to tear your truck up. So the moment you crash someone back, I mean, especially in the truck series where Aero is so much bigger than any of the other or any of the other 2 series, because of just the massive deck lid and how big the right side is and everything. Aero's so big with no motor that you can't afford to wreck someone back. And so I think it's, especially in the truck series, there's no repercussion to wrecking someone.
Yeah. I mean, you see it, right? Going back to your K&N career, you had some awesome runs. Like you won a couple races, second in the championship. Like that's super impressive in, competing against guys in GMS equipment and guys in like super stout equipment running out of essentially cup shops for a K&N deal.
Yeah, my rev program when I was there, now they've obviously got a lot more resources with Gamebridge and Chevy. But when I was there, it was not that way, and that's not to say that we had bad equipment because we obviously had equipment caliper. We just had to work harder for it, and I got a really good crew chief my 3rd year, and we were extremely well. And we took the previous crew chief, which was Mark Green, and I still talk to Mark all the time. He was just at my house like 2 days ago. And we moved him to like the driver coach role for me. He obviously had experience behind the wheel, putting together long races, and it helped me a ton having him in that role. And then I had Doug Howe as my crew chief, and yeah, we went out and New Smyrna. We had a lot of bad luck. New Smyrna, first race of the season, was leading and blew a rear end seal. And Bristol, we got crashed by Sam. Gateway, I was leading the race, had a kill switch failure with 40 to go. So we had a lot of opportunity, I would say, to win probably 5 or 6 of the races. We ended up winning 2 of them, and probably would have given us a championship. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, we had a great run, especially that 3rd year. The 4th year, not so much. That was the Arca merger year, and we couldn't at the time afford to have the Ilmor motors, so we were on the K&N motor, and it honestly, it killed us. We go to Phoenix, and like you'd get a run off the top, and they would pull you off the bottom, and it's like you got to be kidding me. But yeah, we had a good run, and I had a blast doing it. It was something that I never thought I was going to get the chance to do, and then when I got to do it, and when we got to be successful, it made it even that much more better. And obviously, yeah, I would have loved to go run trucks, but who's going to front that bill? I mean, even if I would have won the championship and won every single race back then, I think the times have changed a little bit. When you start to see more people like Ford and Chevy and Toyota starting to put a little bit more behind certain drivers. But back then, there was, I mean, it was straight up, you paid no matter what. And it's still that way to this day, don't get me wrong, but there are few and far people that are getting more chances. And so for me back then, I just didn't have, $2 million burning a hole in my pocket, and I didn't have anybody banging at the door waiting to spend it. So that was it.
Yeah, no, and that's simply the way it goes, right? Um, you had a decent wreck. I've heard you talk about like you really screwed up your back. Um, sounds like you're being a little like loose with the safety equipment. Is that the case?
Yeah, I didn't. I never liked crotch belts, especially the ones we had. They were like the I guess you would say one, two, three, four, five, the six ones
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
where they like came over both legs. I hated them, so I didn't wear them ever. And I was at Bristol and took one of the smallest wrecks you could physically see at Bristol. I mean, I've seen way bigger and harder wrecks, and it just like slipped me in the seat just enough to where like it tore a muscle in my back, and it was terrible. I mean, it felt horrible. I mean, I ran the rest of the race, and then once you complain about it on the radio, like, "Hey guys, my back is killing me," then NASCAR's obligated to do safety protocol, and the next thing you know, I'm being hauled up on a stretcher. Like I mean, you would think something catastrophic happened. I was just my back hurt. It wasn't like that bad. Um, and lesson learned. But so then I got carried on a stretcher, like in the golf cart. I mean, someone probably thought the ever living worst happened to me. Get put in the ambulance, then you get taken to the hospital, and I was fine. I mean, I just tore a muscle. It wasn't anything crazy. But yeah, no, it's just all because I didn't wear my crotch belt.
You do you keep it tight now? Like, did you learn your lesson on all the safety shit? Like, I've seen guys like wearing, whatever go-kart shoes, and then they have a big fire, and then it's like all of a sudden now they're in their full long johns and socks and shit.
Yeah, safety for me has, as I've gotten older, I've realized how important it is. I actually was just telling Hailie that I want to go get the hybrid. I don't like the Hans anymore, and that's just part of it. Also, when you're racing open wheel cars, you have to be a lot more, proactive with your safety, because there are a lot more accidents, and you do go flipping big, and it's not if it happens, it's when. I mean, it's no matter what, you're gonna go flipping. So at some point in your career, so yeah, and then they're methanol fires, so you got to have the right proper safety to for that because no one can see the fire because methanol burns clear. So if you're not proactive with it, like I am now, like I wasn't in the past, yeah, you're asking to get hurt.
Yeah, for sure. So when the I guess when the Rev program ended, uh where like how were you conceptualizing your career? Like was it okay, I want to, you know, keep hunting sponsorship and try and go truck racing and climb this massive mountain of finding 2-3 million bucks, or go do something else for a living?
Um, No, not one bit of me. And the reason is because I've watched so many of my friends and so many people I've become close with through racing go through the exact same thing. Good race car drivers. One of the best race car drivers, that, like that doesn't get to race that in the past was unbelievable was Drew Herring. Drew Herring was unbelievable and never got an opportunity. And so I watch people. Vargas is still doing it to this day, and I don't know how. I mean, it is a tough road, and it's still trying to find that dollar to do it. And kudos to him. I tell him all the time. I could never. I feel like the amount of time you spend writing emails and sending cold call or and making cold calls and sending those emails, you could spend towards doing something else that hey, if I put the work in, I'm going to make money. If I put the work in just to go race, you still don't make money.
Yeah.
So like, and how long is that withstandable for, right? So if I go spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week putting in the time, well, that I just spent 40 hours and there's no guarantee I'm going to make a single dime out of it. And then also, if I get one race, that doesn't mean I get two, and it doesn't mean I get three. And truthfully, honestly, I could count on a single hand how many people within the Truck Series and Xfinity Series put together are there off true sponsor dime. The rest are just dad's money. And that's not to be, to take away from him, because if my dad had the damn money, then I'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But, and I don't fault those kids for having that. If they got it, great. It just seems like every rich parent seems to put their kid in racing. And I don't know why that happens, but it seems to be. So, or it's just the rich kids always rise to the top because they have the ability to do it. So, yeah, I mean, there's so little, and I see how hard it is for even Hailie to find the funding to do a single year, and she's got the biggest social following, which brings in far more viewers and interaction than any of the broadcasts do. So, yeah, there's more value, honestly, in that than there is with a sticker on the truck. And so to see how hard it is for her to put together the funding to go for a year, there's no damn way I could. I mean, not a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100.
And honestly, I'm not gonna go do it in a truck that I can't win in. I said that the moment I was almost done with it, with the K&N Series, I said, if I can't go race in a caliper truck that I can win, I don't want to do it, because I don't have fun not winning. I mean, I don't know a single racer that does. But for me, I could never go run in underfunded equipment and be like, yeah, guys, top 20 today. Great job. I just can't. I can't. I have to at least have a shot of winning.
For sure. For sure. Then it, like you were saying before, then it really becomes a job super quick. And a job where you're not at home all the time, you're running around, and a job you're doing for free. Like it's,
Yeah.
it's a good point. It's a good point. I've been trying to pinpoint, what is it about racing, like that feeling in racing that, keeps me coming back for more. And you obviously still race dirt and stuff. Like, are you able to articulate like what the feeling is, or the, certain different aspects of racing that are like, why do I keep coming back for more?
I don't know. I don't know. The only reason I race what I race now, because I run micro sprints. For those who don't know, they're a sprint car downsized, with a 600cc motor in it, street bike engine motor, and it's super competitive. You race against really good caliper race car drivers, cup guys, really good dirt drivers. They have really big shows, 20,000 to win, 24,000, 10,000, 12,000 all year long. And then we got our biggest race of the year, Tulsa Shootout, coming up. So the caliper of driver and that you can race against is great. The competition is there, and it's the only thing that I feel I can do affordably and have nice shit. Like, I could go get a late model, but I'm not gonna go beat Lee Falk. Like, their shit's way above what I could afford. And it's not even almost on the afford spectrum. It's as much as it is to the point of like, do I really want to spend that much money for what? Like in the micro stuff, I can do it at a reasonable price where I'm like, yeah, I'll get a set of tires. Oh, I'll get wheels, or, I can get a nice motor, or, and do it and have really nice stuff for a somewhat reasonable price.
Yeah. It sounds like for you, it's the competitive side of things.
Yeah, I like to win.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have fun if I'm not winning. If I'm running like shit, I don't even want to be there.
Yeah, fair enough. You grew up playing soccer pretty competitively too?
Yeah, I did that. I got it when we got out of motocross. I was like, my parents were like, well, you got to find something to do. Like, and we didn't know anything about like the go-kart world or anything like that. And so I started playing soccer. I played all the way through high school, and I enjoyed it. I just got burnt out. It just I don't like being reliable on a bunch of other people. Like there's 10 other people, and if they don't do their job, you don't succeed. Like I don't care how hard you work. And so I just after high school I did it, and I had a blast doing it, and I still enjoy it. And I'll watch select games here and there, like World Cup. I for sure watch. But other than that, I don't know, it's just something to do for the time being.
Right, right. Do you do a bunch of sim racing?
Yeah, like every night.
Okay.
We have. So I grew up playing iRacing. I got it when I was 13, and I like sitting in a chair like what I'm in right now, with a wheel on a desk, like $120 wheel, and pedals on the ground. And I played and played and played. Hell, I got really good like that. And then we got a sim through a sponsor deal, and it's full motion. It's like $47,000 rig,
Whew.
and it has made sim racing like way better.
Yeah.
So now I can't like I actually feel bad about how much I spend on the sim at night. Like I like look at the time, I'm like, damn, like I know I should get off, but I really don't want to. Every time I play, and so yeah, I do a ton of sim racing. I really enjoy it.
Do you conceptualize it as like different than racing, or it's like its own discipline, like sim racing is its own thing?
I think it, and I try to preach this a lot to Hailie a lot too. Is I think sim racing can help you. I don't think it's like, hey, go race the Xfinity car at Vegas and practice the Xfinity car at Vegas, and it's like anything like her Ford sim.
Yeah.
You know, like they go to the Ford sim, it's damn near pretty close. That no, but I think what it does help you in is racecraft. You got the guys. Yeah, hell, sometimes you're playing against the same guys you're racing against that weekend, and I think the racecraft side of it, of that guy's going to make that move in real life. They're going to do that in real life, and you have to understand how to maneuver within that, and either go against it and or follow them or whatever you're going to do. So I think you end up making the same real life decisions that you make on the sim, to a sense. And I think more than anything, it's just you're racing and you're keeping that competitive nature. So I'm a big advocate of it. I think it helped me a ton. You got to think I came from literally, I started racing micro sprints in Florida. Micro sprints in Florida is not what dirt racing is. It's like the tracks don't get slick. They're very sandy. You're just a lot of throttle time. And I never knew what it was like to run on a slick and like in the slick. But I played a lot of R Factor back then when iRacing didn't have dirt. And I was racing against Christopher Bell and Rico and Kyle Larson, Logan Seavey, and guys who are winning USEC titles and World of Outlaw championships and World of Outlaw races. And like you clearly see it get slick, and I got to be here or I got to be here. And then once I did start traveling, it like second nature. It was like, oh yeah, look, there's the cushion, there's this. And guys typically who come from Florida for the most part, they really struggle when a track gets slick because they don't do it ever. And so I think it helped me a ton there. And then even in the pavement world, when I went to that, I didn't know what I was doing, but I had an idea because of sim racing.
For sure. I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. Like all the names you just mentioned there, running R Factor before iRacing had dirt. Like there's a reason those guys are, where they are. They're putting in that time.
And And that's not to say, because I definitely don't agree that if you're a great sim racer, you can be a good race car driver. I don't think people who come from absolutely zero racing background and only sim race can go get in a real car and be good. Now, that's not to say with time they couldn't. I think with time and them putting the effort in and learning it, they could. But I think it betters you if you do have a racing background. Now, for instance, kids like Raja came straight from sim racing to real life, and he's like, when he first started, he struggled, and then he got better and better, and then the sim racing started coming into play. Those moves, the repetition, the being consistent, the going for the best lap time, constantly one upping your buddies. like that started to come in, and his learning curve like went from here and just super fast. But I think at the beginning, when you just come from sim racing, go into real life, it's like, shit, if I hit that wall, I don't hit escape. Like, and if I do this, this doesn't happen. So, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And like you think about it, even if you're whatever, say like, you know, in my instance, like I've never even come close to a super speedway, but you know, if I lined up a ride to run a super speedway, like I'd have to have 1,000 races on the sim to learn the air, you know, figure out the strategy. Like otherwise you're so far behind the eight ball when you show up there and you think you're just gonna, you know, wing it.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Speedway racing is its own deal. Like, it's hang on and hold on. But if you want to be good at it, yeah, you have to really understand the air and understand the moves and the runs. And I think something like that's where sim racing does come into play, is where you're able to at least do it. The only difference is like on sim race, you're like, screw it, I'm splitting that hole. And in real life, you're like, damn, I ain't doing that.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It's gonna hurt in real life.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just in sim racing, you have an escape key.
yeah,
And even if you wreck, damn, my safety rating went down, my I rating went down. In real life, shit, there's a lot of shit that could get messed up real quick.
for sure. My crew chief, old school, super late model racer, would always say on iRacing to guys when they'd get pissed, you know, they're all pissed about a wreck. And he's like, "That's nothing. Have your wife hit you over the head with a frying pan and throw 40 grand into the fire. Then you'll know what it feels like."
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah, the money side of it's way more than just my I rating, my safety rating, or whatever the case might be.
yeah. So going back to the YouTube stuff, how has your life changed from becoming so public, like vlogging? You know, you're now putting your life out there. Was that kind of a conscious decision, or just let's see how it goes?
Well, I mean, for Haley and I, like, it was, we had to make money. Like, at that time when she's truck racing, there's no money incoming from the truck racing. I mean, sure, yeah, you get a percentage or whatever the case is, but 90% of them just put that right back into the pot to go racing again. So
Sure.
for us, we had to have a sense of income, and it was like, hey, she's done YouTube before. Her family's always had a channel. I know how to film and I know how to edit, and so we just tackled it together. And for us, it was, you know, the way we forever in the beginning, that was our only source of income. And so we were full bore at it. But I don't think it's as much as putting your life out there as people might think.
Mm.
There's a lot that you're not filming. Um, and in the beginning, that's why you saw us putting 3 videos out a week. We were Monday, Wednesday, or was it Monday, Thursday, Sunday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday in the beginning. And because we had to. I mean, we had to make money. And the only way to grow a YouTube channel is by putting in that much amount of effort. And now it's like, all right, we've got this business, we've got this business, we got this business, and we got that business. And not to say we don't focus on it as much, but it's also like, hey, now you have a lot more time to focus on what's important. And then also we're traveling a ton and doing a lot more traveling and going to this race and going to that race and going to this meeting, going to this meeting. There is a lot less time to film, and less ideas to do. So when, as far as putting your personal life out there, a lot of the times we're purpose filming.
Mm.
So like, it's like, hey, do you have an idea for filming? I'm like, yeah, I was thinking about doing this, and whatever that is. Let's, you know, last week we got it, or 2 weeks ago we got a Can-Am, and it was like, hey, let's go pick up the new Can-Am, drive it around, drag race it against the old Can-Am. Boom, we got a video. And so you film going to do that, and you turn the camera on when that's being done, and I edit it. So it's like, if I don't want that being shown, if I'm like, yeah, I don't think that sounded good for me to say, then I just don't put it in.
You're right.
So it's not as much as putting your personal life out there as people might think. At least I don't feel.
Right. And I guess the reason I asked, again, looking at those videos, you guys had a video where you had like a legit like stalker and you got like death threats. Like that's got to be a little unnerving, dude.
Yeah, that. So like in times like that, right? Like you're like, we're so focused on this, we have nothing able to film, time to film, nothing, but we got to put a video out.
Hmm.
So let's be real with people, tell them what we're going through and put it out there. And I do think it, like in stuff like that, yeah, you do put your personal life out there, but I also think at the same time it lets people know, like, and understand some of the shit that you do have to deal with. Yeah, that situation was crazy. It got far worse than what that video talked about. I mean, we're talking like cops and night vision and ARs behind the house, like going through the woods, and um, him message you like, knock knock, who's there? I'm like, go out of your house, turn right. Posting videos of your house while you're like posting videos of you working in your garage. Like, I'm out there working in the micros, and all of a sudden a video pops up on TikTok, and you're like, that was 3 minutes ago, and that's me. And you're like, holy shit. So yeah, that situation got pretty crazy. But it got resolved, and I'm glad it got resolved, and it's kind of all that's said and done.
Jeez. Dude, like I can't imagine that stress. Like that's like that I can't imagine like how much stress that would be like.
Yeah, it got to a point where like it was like Hailie would sit and watch. We have cameras all around the house, every door, every window, everything. So Hailie would sit there and watch the cameras while I would go to the bathroom. Or if she was making dinner, I sat there and watched cameras. And it was like 2, 3, 4 a.m. And then yeah, we sat there and just monitored, just because you're kind of helpless. In that situation at times, you can feel super helpless and you're the sitting duck. So, we were fortunate enough to have the sheriff department help us out a lot, like sit in a car outside overnight, all night. A different sheriff each night would sit out there, but that doesn't come with just help. Like, you have to pay them to sit out there all night so you can at least sleep. We were fortunate enough to have TJ Majors, who was Hailie's spotter at the time, obviously worked with Junior, and Junior had a security team, and he recommended them to us, and they came and did a whole month with us. I mean, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed to the moment you're sleeping, they drive you, they do everything, and they walk with you everywhere you go, whether you're going in the grocery store or whatever the case is. Call it overkill, but when your life is threatened, it's kind of, you feel at least some sort of peace that you got another set of eyes around you and people who are highly trained in that field.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's good that it got resolved. That must be like the biggest weight off your back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's still like, even dealing with that's a lot. Like, you're going to court and you're in court, multiple times, and it's it's a long process, and it takes forever, and it's dreadful, and it's just something else you have to deal with while you're trying to do everything else. You're trying to focus on racing and watch footage and go to the sim and it's like, damn, dude, like, I gotta deal with this. But and that does come from putting your life out there. You give a lot of people a false sense of almost who you are.
Hmm.
But and when people have huge social followings like Hailie does, people, when there's 1.5 million Instagram followers, if someone creates a fake account and messages 1.5 million people, someone's going to believe it. I mean, when there's that many people, at least one, two, three, four people are going to be like, oh, she got a second account. Oh, she's texting me,
Yeah.
you know? and and that's just, you know, how it happens. And even though you tell people it's not real and it's fake and this and that, when they don't believe it, and certain people think, you know, whatever they think, and that's what causes it.
Yeah, I think it's more and more these days as people live their lives online, whether it be listening to podcasts or following YouTubers, like they gain this sense of like, if I only ran into this person, we'd be friends, and we have this. It's like this one-sided like relationship where you think you're whatever friends or something like that. Like it is crazy, and I think it's more and more of a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I know that for a lot of YouTubers that like we've done collabs with, collaborations, for those who don't know, is just when we say, you know, we link up, hey, let's make a video together. It helps. It introduces our viewers to them and their viewers to us. And so we've done a lot of collabs, and there are some people, I would say, like ourselves, that are pretty much the same people that you're going to get on and off camera. You might over exaggerate here, over exaggerate there, but for the most part, it's pretty similar. And then there's some people that it's like camera turns on and you're like, whoa, where'd that come from? Or you've watched their videos and you meet them to do a collab and you're like, holy shit, like that's not who I expected. And then the camera turns on and they're who you've watched, and you're like, holy crap, like this is legitimately a totally different human being.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. I guess people are performing, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, you're putting on a TV show. No one watches TV that much anymore. It's your streaming service or YouTube. And you know, I know a lot of YouTubers that really are a lot different than on and off camera. And there are a lot of them that are the same, like the same all times. But there's, you know, a handful that we've collabed with, and I'm like, dear Lord, that's someone totally different. But hey, it works for them, and that's how they make their money, and it works. So who am I to fault it?
Sure, sure.
There's actors that act every day on TV that we watch that aren't not even the same character.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point for sure. I mean, I was gonna ask if it like that situation, dissuaded you from whatever, I guess sharing more, I don't know, whatever it may be, like shots of outside your house and stuff like that. But like, man, in 2023, like if someone, even if you have an Instagram account, like if someone wants to find you, they can find you, and you're never like, if you're racing NASCAR, you're gonna have to put yourself out there, whether it's a YouTube channel or not. Like it's just the territory we all live in now, I think.
I agree. I think there's, you know, unfortunately, that's the way it is in 2023. You can find anybody anywhere. Just it just is what it is. But I guess it's part of the, I guess you would say, limelight. I don't know. And that's just, I guess that's just what you have to deal with. So yeah, we do the right things and put up with it the correct way. And you know, I mean, from there, like you look at guys like Justin Bieber, these huge celebrities, they can't even walk out of their house.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy, crazy. They walk out and it's just tick, 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 tick. Like I don't know how I would deal with that. And you know, and so, but like you, to your point, is anybody can find anybody. I mean, he walks out from a gym and it's camera. How the hell do they know he's there? You know, but it's 2023.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, is there anything that you've kind of like learned or had personal growth through the YouTube channel, like, putting yourself out there? I think for me anyways in the podcast, like you don't know what you really believe until you say it out loud or you put it out there. Like I think it's a good thing to some degree to at least expose yourself to a lot of people, and then you get feedback, whether it's, good or bad.
I think YouTube has done a few things for me. It's taught me how to build a business, and it's taught me how to hold yourself accountable. Because when money was tight for a while, it was like if you don't film, you don't make money. You don't edit? Oh man, I don't want to edit at 4 a.m. Too bad. You have to. Like, we have to make money. And so it's taught me that much, but it's also taught me, and I didn't have this when I was racing. I had like 4,000 Instagram followers. I mean, it's like damn near my high school class,
Yeah.
plus, I mean, obviously not that big, but you get what I'm saying. Versus where you're at now, and it's like, yeah, they're obviously Hailie's followers, but I get this, that I get the feedback as well, and it's taught me how to tune that out, because there's a lot of hate. Guys that have never drove a race car, or dude, you could literally, we rebuilt my buddy's shop out of our good hearts. We were like, you know what, let's help our buddy out. We have an off season a couple weeks ago, and we redid this kid's shop for him. And is one of my really good friends. So we redid it, and it's like, oh, you should have done this. Oh, you should have done this. This would have made your life way better. Why did you do it this way? It's like, shut up. But if you just learn how to tune that out, or people that say, oh, why is Hailie not on the sim? Blah, 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 blah. What do you want? I can't freaking go to the Ford sim. Like, you want me to go film it? I'm not even allowed there.
Yeah.
Like, you have to understand, when we're filming, it's like one day out of a week, maybe 4 hours of that whole day. There are 6 other damn days with 24 hours in them that a lot of other shit happens. And so they want to, oh, you're spending too much time doing this. Like, when you were full-time racing, you mean to tell me for 4 hours out of the week, you didn't do something that wasn't focused on your racing? No. Like, you did. And it was probably more. And like, every racer, but no one else is putting it out there. No one else is putting out when they're doing other fun stuff. So it just opens your door to negative comments and hate. And it has taught me how to tune it out. Half the time, I think a lot of them are funny, because it's like, you are so ridiculous. You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And it's also funny, like, when you do, like, say you redo that shop and they're telling you how to do it, like, you understand this was like a week ago, and I've already filmed and edited and posted the video. You want to tell me now?
Yeah.
Like, you're serving no purpose. So yeah, it's taught me how to tune that out. And obviously, as you can tell, I still haven't mastered it, but for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. You guys built like an oval track, like go-kart asphalt track, in, I don't know if it's your backyard or someone's backyard. Like, that's all the kind of shit that, like, my brother and I thought, like, when we were kids, like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, and you're getting to do all that cool stuff. Do you ever pinch yourself, or like, man, I'm like, this is badass?
It's so hard. It's so hard to, like, because it comes, and you almost get, as bad as it says, as bad as it is, it's very easy to get jaded of it, and like, to where it's like, oh sweet, we got this or we got that. Obviously there's a lot of stuff I do get excited about, like the go-kart track's badass. Like, as a kid, I always wanted a go-kart track, and as a kid, I always wanted a pit bike track, and now I got both. So yeah, I mean, if you would have told, I don't know, 15, 14, 13-year-old me that one day I'd be making a living off of YouTube and selling merchandise and being able to race at a pretty competitive level with nice shit, and have a go-kart track in my backyard and a pit bike track in my front yard and a Can-Am track on the other side of the front yard, like, I'd be like, no way. But when it comes, and it's just like, everything's moving so fast. And another thing is when you're filming it. So like, you do the go-kart track, or like you build a Can-Am track, yeah, because you want to, and you want to do the go-kart track. But at the end of the day, it's a video. It's an idea for a video to get, okay, if we put a go-kart track in, we get a video building it, we get a video of driving on it the first time, we get a video of a race, and then we can always have nice, easy filler content of going out there and running laps. You get 6, 7, 8 videos out of it. And then when you go away from it, you can come right back to it and do another video on it. So it's buying things for work but they're badass. So at times, it's hard. Sometimes I sit back and I go, damn, like it is badass what we get to do. And it's badass the places we get to go. And, but in the moment, sometimes you do forget to like almost appreciate it. And that's just truth. I mean, people are going to say, wow, he's ungrateful. This, no, it's like, okay, for instance, if I told you right now you were going to run a KBM truck, you'd be like, shitting me?
Yeah.
Like, seriously? But when you were racing full time, it was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to get to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
100%.
not like this huge thing.
100%. 100%. With whatever anyone does, like, my dad's business is buying and selling classic cars, restoring cars. And like, that's his, passion, and he gets to do, and he built a business around it. And some of the best advice he ever gave me, or anyone who asked, really is, dude, I still show up 6-7 days a week and I work. Like, whatever it is you decide to do for a living, it's still work.
100%. I mean, YouTube was at the beginning. It was, I had so much fun, and I was so creative, like the ideas and the filming and this. I mean, we had a shop, and in the shop we had 2 editing bays, and we had another filmer and another editor, and we would both come in when we were putting 3 videos out. Later, or I think we at that point we had gone to 2, and this was later, probably a year and a half, 2 years into our YouTube journey, and I would edit half of it and he would edit half of it. Now it's back to just me, but we've kind of pulled a little bit of focus away from it, and put focus into other things. It's got a nice sustainable base. I'm not trying to be. Of course, I would love to be as big as C Boys or Cletus McFarlane or whatever the case is, but you've got to know, like, hey, those guys are doing this as a full-time everyday job. Hailie's full-time everyday job is to go out and perform on the racetrack. YouTube is secondary, and it always has been secondary. A lot of people seem to get that mixed up because you do see a lot of like going and playing on a go-kart track or going and playing on K&N. But to my point earlier, it's one day out of the week for 4 hours. Like, I mean, it's like if you said, hey, I want to go to GoPro. Like, it's not like this big deal that people made it out to be. But back then, we had another filmer, another editor, and we were, both putting full bore into it. And I was editing half and he was editing half. And now it's like, sit down on my couch, get on my laptop, and I'm good.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So you got the clothing company, and you're definitely a creative guy and an entrepreneurial guy. What do you have cooking up for the future as far as that goes?
So, I mean, yeah, we have our, I'm sitting in our printer room. So right now we produce all of our own merchandise. I mean, I've got stuff sitting here ready to be shipped out. And we produce that. So for a while, we didn't produce our own merchandise. We would buy it through a screen printer shop. But what that did was it limited us because, say, I order, I don't know, let's throw an even number out there, 500 garments of the same design. Sometimes that's sold out in a night, and sometimes it's never sells out, and it's sitting and it has sat on a shelf because it just wasn't a great design and people didn't love it. Or another shirt I put out at that time was better, and they were like, you know what, if I'm going to spend $30, $35, I would rather spend it on that shirt than I would that shirt. And so it limits you, because when you do sell out in 24 hours, it's like, it's a great problem to have, but could that shirt have sold double that? I don't know. So when we're able to produce it ourselves, and that's why I got a direct to garment machine, was because we never can sell out now. And stuff that has been sold out for years, I just re-put on the website, and people, sure enough, they wanted it. And they would go on there, and for instance, that shirt I grabbed, this camouflage one, that was something I produced, I would say, year 1. And it has sat on the website archived for all this time because it sold out. And I relisted on the website because it's not sold out, because all it takes is a black garment. And we have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of black garments sitting in the garage, and white garments sitting in the garage, and gray, and whatever other color. So they order it, You just pull that file and you print it. Now, that was a huge step for us, but the next step is to be able to outsource. So if you wanted shirts done, I wanted to do that, and that was originally a thought. The problem is a direct-to-garment machine is not as fast as a screen printer, and that's the downside to it. It takes way longer to do, but it opens up your buying power, because I can put a shirt out now, and truthfully, I cannot make a single one if I don't think it's going to sell. Because in the past, I would make a design, show Hailie, hey, what do you think? No, I don't think it's going to sell, and here's why. And it was kind of like, well, if I do it and it doesn't sell, then she's right.
Yeah.
And we've lost money. But, so this has opened up our buying power a ton. And with a screen printer, it'll make it to where we can outsource. And also, when we release, okay, for instance, we have a shirt coming out for the Tulsa Shootout. It's got her car on it and my car on it. So when we post that shirt and say there is 500 orders, well, on a screen printer, you can knock that out in a day. On a direct-to-garment, that takes a week. So on a big order like that, to get a screen printer, I can knock them out, boom, and get the base out. And now if someone does order, let's take, for instance, that camouflage shirt. All right, well, this machine's still great because I can still do one-off shirts and still get it done reasonably and quickly and cost efficiently. Where if I wanted to do one screen print shirt, you've got to make the screens. You got to do it. It's not feasible by any means. Even 10 is not feasible. You spend more money in making the screens and everything like that. So to get a screen printer and to build out that side, I want to we want to get a full blown shop, screen printer shop going, hopefully by summer next year, to where we can knock out our big orders and also be able to take on, for instance, your shirts, or this guy's shirt, or this guy's shirt needs 500, this guy needs 1,000, and build that business as well. So that, later on in life. And another thing for that is I've taught my younger brother how to run this machine and how to do this. So for him, it's given him a trade, and it's given him clients. Once we get the screen printer going, it'll give him a way to build up a clientele. So if, he ever wants to move on and go do something else, or he wants to open up his own shop, he has a clientele that he's built and he knows how to do it. And so, for us, it just, Casey's got a shop, Casey Kane, Truex has got a shop with Swell. And there's money to be made in it. And if you do it correctly, I don't foresee why it wouldn't work.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. People don't appreciate how big t-shirt sales are in NASCAR.
Yeah, that is for sure. But also, like, how much other people need shirts printed, whether it's corporations and giveaways, and people get shirts done all the time. But taking on a big shop like that takes on a lot of task out of myself. It takes a lot of task out of my younger brother, with putting him in the lead role of understanding how to deal with, say if you wanted shirts done, it's not just, hey, can I get some shirts? Yeah, no problem. Here's our price. Oh, okay, paid. No, you've got complaints, you've got time, you've got, deadlines you got to meet. And so, and then also dealing with a designer, because at that rate, there's no way that I could physically design shirts all day, every day, with everything else I've got going on. So, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I take a lot of advice from podcasts, and like I listen to Logan Paul a lot. Logan's got great ideas, and he always talks about like outsourcing and how do you take yourself out of doing the hardship work and being able to focus on something else and build that up, and focus on something else and build that up, and put people in roles to take on what you used to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess you just have to keep going and keep building and building, and hopefully one day you've got 7 different forms of income.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, before I let you go, I ask all my guests, or at least the ones who I think will give me a good answer, some advice. And, it's funny. I've heard that you used to ask kids in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it was like astronaut or whatever the biggest thing was on media, on TV at that point. And now you ask kids in school what they want to do when they grow up, and it's YouTuber. So what advice do you have for, some young kid who wants to be a YouTuber and they don't know, like, where to start?
You have to be extremely creative. Um, that is the number one thing about YouTube. And you've got to find your niche. For instance, someone who's gone from 0 to 100 extremely fast is a guy named Arac, AIRRACK. He has built his channel to like 10, 12 million, or I mean, I couldn't even tell you. It's huge. Eric has, but he put the time in, he put the effort in, and he put out quality content. Nobody wants to watch you do average things. Like, for instance, our worst videos are when we are doing average things. Okay, let's take, for instance, we just went and ran a micro and we were testing for the shootout. What's an average video? We're just driving around the track testing. And you know what? That video is doing absolutely horrible. But if when I go out and decided the one day that I was going to take an old couch, put wheels on it, tie it to a quad, lay on the couch, have my buddy drive the quad and jump it off of a berm. The video did awesome because why? People love that. They think it's hilarious, And so I would say to just be extremely creative, and it takes a lot of money to make money on YouTube because you have to do bigger and better. In this day and age, in the old day and age of YouTube, people fell in love with the creator.
Mm.
Roman Atwood days, Logan Paul days, when there was daily vloggers and it was like them sitting on their damn couch or cooking a meal, people watched it. Nowadays, in this Mr. Beast era of YouTube, you have to constantly go bigger and better and bigger and better. And it's made it extremely tough. So if you are trying to start YouTube and you're trying to do it, you have to just be bigger and better at all times. Like, just keep one upping yourself. And it gets extremely hard to do. And it costs a lot of damn money to do. But you have to devote money to something to make money. I've never seen a company start at literal no money put into it and become a successful business. Like, you have to put money in there and you got to invest in yourself, because otherwise, get nice quality cameras, figure out how to edit. There's an editor by the name of Hillier Smith on YouTube. He did all of YouTube, all of Logan Paul's edits forever. And I've watched his YouTube videos of do's and don'ts a million times. And he's extremely calculated in the way he edits. And some of those things fall over into what we do. So, yeah, like I said, I would just invest a lot of time, have the right resources, be a good editor, be a good filmer, be a good, have the right mindset, and invest time.
Right on. Right on. That's good. Well, I appreciate it, man. Tell everyone where they can follow along.
Yeah, so obviously Hailie Deegan YouTube. It's where we're doing all of our stuff at, and then we have our Instagram handles. Mine's just my name, and Hailie's just her name. But yeah, we're gearing up for one of the biggest races of the year for myself. Hailie's doing it for the fun of it. For me, it's like Super Bowl. So it's a lot of work getting ready for it, but we'll be head there so you guys can follow along as we head off.
Right on. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
See you guys next week.